So some of you haven't bought the book yet. You should go get the book. Here it is right here. But listen, even if you don't have the book, we're going to show you about 8 right now. We're going to show you 8 examples of just how the corrections change the meaning. These are not insubstantial. And we're going to tell you why they had to change them. You don't know that yet. Stay tuned to find out.
Of course, the work of Dr. Brubaker is so damaging to a normative, basically, narrative, if you wish. If you think one way and you are confident about your book, you look at the work of Dr. Brubaker and all of a sudden your faith is shaken. And it did impact a number of those prominent people when they saw it. And evidence of that is that they went after Dan Brubaker and attacking him.
Absolutely. You wouldn't attack him. Yasser Qadhi would not introduce him into his ultra-crepidarian video unless, of course, Daniel had really hurt them at the core. And that's why I'm sure Muslims said, could you please also shut down Dan Brubaker? Yasser Qadhi does not know who Dan Brubaker was because he didn't even know that he was not part of this discussion.
Yeah, I want to say something. You know, Dr. Brubaker is the nicest scholar you will ever meet. He will never, ever indulge in any such actions or using words or knocking down people or attacking. And in fact, I remember him one time somebody says, all of your arguments have been refuted. And his simple response with a smile was, what's there to refute? These are photos.
And so let's look at some of the photos. So yeah. I want to go back to the slides and I want to just show you this first one here. We're going to look at 16 of them. Let's start and see how far we get in this episode. Here is an insertion on the Topkapı. The Topkapı is the one that is there in Istanbul. It's chapter 9, verse 72. I put a green arrow there to show the hua. Can you see there, the hua?
Right.
It obviously was not there to begin with. It's been added it's been inserted. It's much smaller than the writing around it. This hua, that is, has been added to the text. Doesn't really change the meaning very much. The reason it's been added is that word hua is right at that spot in chapter 9, verse 72 in the 1924 Hafs text, the one that we're always using as a standard text. So it was added to correspond with the Hafs text.
Right. And this is just a style of affirming. So it's in the affirmative when you add this phrase in this particular context. That's all that's going on. But the question is, why add it anyway?
That's right. Yeah. It used to say, and Allah's good pleasure is greater, the great triumph. Now that is the great triumph. It's just putting an emphasis onto that. So that's the first one. Again, it's obvious that there's a standardization going on here. Let's go to number 2. Here's number 2. This is chapter 42, verse 21. This is the Petropolitanus manuscript that's in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, there in France. And it has the word lahum in the verse. Before it was lahu, which is singular to him. It is now brought lahum. Now it's for them. Fascinating because you really don't need it unless you're trying to standardize it to something that existed beforehand. In this case, in the Hafs text, it is lahum.
And also there is a damage here. Lahu is in the singular, lahum is in the plural. So we still have to wrestle with that.
Yeah. Or do they have associates who enacted for them? Used to be. Or do they have associates who enacted for him?
And that's reference to who? Who's the him? Is it Allah?
Is it Allah?
Muhammad?
Or is
it someone else?
So this would have a lawful lot of change, and that's why. But in this case, it's obviously they're trying to standardize it. Let's go to number 3 here. Now, I'm going to show you this one. This is what we call a post-production insertions.
And the missing Allah, basically.
Of the Allah. Looking for the Allah. We need to find the Allah. So let's go and see 9 different Allahs that they've added. I'm going to circle them in green. So here is the first one. There's the Allah first one. There's another Allah. Over here's another Allah. Let's look up here. There's another Allah. Whoop, there's one right at the top. Over down here to the left, and then coming up a little bit, and then down to the right. Those green ones you don't really need because it's understood it's talking about God. There's no reason to put any of those there.
And the only reason why I would add them, like you said, is just to standardize it based on one particular reading.
Yeah. This is the Fustat Umayyad Codex. Fustat is just outside of Cairo. It's an Egyptian manuscript. And there, if you look, let's go back to the slide. There you see the 7 green ones. There's one, I'm going to put one more. This one here in yellow, you do need it.
Because it will clarify it for you.
Because you don't know who you're talking about. This clarifies. Right. But what's interesting, why are the other 7 put up there? 8 put up there? Why are the 8 up there and the one yellow we can understand? They are all there because it's in the Hafs text again.
And that's the thing is like, was it Hafs who decided to read it that way? Was it revealed that way to Muhammad? I mean, that's another question you have to ask.
It's like we don't have any manuscript from Muhammad or even from the 7th century as a standard to look at. What we have is the Hafs text. This book that I have in my hand here, this text had to be standardized, so they added it in all those places. Let's look at number 4. Number 4, this one is from the National Library of Russia in St. Petersburg. It's a folio. Dan went up there. He went to Russia, St. Petersburg. He was given permission to look at the folio. He went to chapter 30, verse 9. He took this picture, and here is a clear eraser. Where the green arrows, I'm pointing to it. Now the eraser is between the word akibatu, which is the fate, and aladina of those. The correction now aligns it with the 1924 Hafs text. We have no idea what this word is. You can't look at it. You can't see what has been erased. It's about roughly 4 to 6 letters. It could have been kulu min, olive, or katiran min, most of, or it could have been also al-Yahud, Dan's guessing, the Jews, or al-Nas, the people. So Dan makes tries to make some educated guess as to what the word is. Since it's erased, we just don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, really. You can assume certain things that will fit the context.
But it's obviously the reason it was erased is because it's not there in the Hafs text. They had to erase this.
And I hope everybody's listening to what we're saying. Somebody came later and wanted to prove, at least to their own audience, that the Quran has been preserved and that the Hafs is the accurate reading. And the only way you do this is you erase anything that does not match the Hafs reading.
In this case, up to 6 letters were erased. Each letter of making a word changed the meaning. Let's go to number 5. This is the one that's on the cover of his book. This is fascinating. This is in the Museum Islamic of Al-Doha. So this is the Doha manuscript.
That's in Qatar.
It's in Qatar. It's chapter 6, verse 91 to chapter 6, verse 97. So it's those 6 verses. Now take a look. You can see it visually. There is a word. Look at number 1, the yellow number 1 up there. Their word alayhi against him has been written over an eraser in chapter 6, verse 93, following the words bima kuntum takulun, for what you, plural, used to say, yet alayhi is not in the 1924 Hafs text.
That's right. And Dan has it on the cover of his book, basically.
Now look at number 2. Number 2 is out in the margin. It's not even in the script. Allah, about Allah, has been written in the margin. It's out in the margin, but oddly, without erasing the alayhi. It's supposed to go where alayhi is, but they did keep it out, and they just wrote it in the margin. They're not even trying to cover this up. I mean, to me, that's blatant. Obviously, in this case, when this manuscript was written, they didn't really care that you could see that it's in the wrong place. Then you go to number 3, it's in the text itself. The word aladina whom has been inserted where it was at first omitted. And then number 4, down at the on the right side, the word ya'lamun, they know, has been written over the eraser. Now, it's interesting, he says, the shadow of the original text can still be seen and appears. He doesn't know what it is, but it looks like it's either BHMWN. Of course, these don't have any diacritical marks or vowelization. We can only guess that that's there. Why, in this case, 4 different changes on one page? Why are all 4 there? Because they support the 1924 Hafs text. Am I starting to sound like a broken record?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, even the BHMWN, sometimes it may not be clear really what that meant, but all that is going on here, you can see that the logical conclusion is someone is trying to standardize it based on a specific reading. Which reading? You guessed it, the Hafs reading.
Okay, number 6. And now we're in the Museum of Art, Doha. Again, the same manuscript. We're looking at chapter 5. Here's multiple post-production. You can see, I'm not even going to show what they have there, but can you look at number 1 and number 2? You can see they have written in between the lines on a whole other phrase, rewritten it into the text. Added at a later time in a different ink. And if you look and you can see number 2, there is the asanu, do good. It's an imperative, which was omitted. But when it was first written, it was added later, but in red ink, because they realized that they had made a mistake here. So this same red ink was also used for the diacritical dots added at a later date, proving that this aleph was added at this later date. They had to have the aleph there, otherwise it would not be correct. So fascinating. There is post-production. Let's go to number 7. I want to go to 2 more before we end here. Here is the Petropolitanus. You can see the word Sabi,
Saba.
seven has been
yeah.
added to the end.
As-samawati sab'a.
And then an aleph has been added.
Seven heavens or seven skies, basically.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's not in this text. It's in the Hafs. They had to add it there. And then finally, this one here. Look at this one, and you can see this is a completely different nib. It's completely different, where bimithli has been added at a later time. It's in there, and notice it even has diacritical marks and vowelization.
Yeah, I mean, here it's also kind of like affirming something, emphasizing something, but you can read it without it. But when you add it, it's almost like you're trying to draw the attention to a specific example here.
And they had to put it in there because it's in the Hafs text. Are you starting to see a pattern?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. And we have 8 more.
8 more to come from.
To share in the next episode. So hopefully everyone is starting to see what's going on. And like I said, you can find these and more in this particular book, or at least some of them. I don't want to claim that all of them are found there. But this is the book that we would like for you to have also in your library by Dr. Daniel Brubaker. And you can see one of those manuscripts that we shared with you is right here on the cover. And this particular one that we just ended with is found right here on the back of the book itself. Until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel Sira International and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.